I think so. I think the first thing that comes to mind is um, the relevance of our own life experiences, whether you're 15 or 55 or 80 plus like me, that's that. Um, but we all have life experiences that we can draw on and that are universal in some sense. There's something about an experience I had maybe as a young mother that will resonate with another young mother a long time after that experience has passed for me. So often students would come to me and they would whine. They would say, "Oh, I just don't have anything to write about." And it's just not true. And so in the classroom, if I could do it over, I think I would spend more time exploring those pathways of individual experience.
Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have an author on the podcast today, and I'm so excited because this author comes to us from one of my good friends at Hannah over at Spellbound Public Relations. Hannah sends me the best authors in the world to talk to. And Gerry is here today, and we're going to be talking about her author journey. We're going to be talking about all things about her book. And I'm so excited to have Gerry on the podcast as a first-time podcast guest. I'm so pleased to have Gerry here. Gerry Wilson, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Nice to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Dave. I'm well, thanks. And I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. I'm excited. Can you tell everybody, Gerry, where you are in this great big world of ours?
I am in Jackson, Mississippi, a little place that's in the news for all the wrong reasons. But that's where I am. I'm a lifelong Mississippian. I'm seventh generation Mississippian, actually, on one side of my family. So my roots are deep here. And so we just deal with whatever comes along with Jackson and try to make things better as we can.
Nice. Mississippi is probably one of the most favorite words of mine growing up to spell. I was always, as a kid, I was like, MISSISSIPPI. I just love spelling Mississippi. There's something about it, and it's something about that part of the world that's beautiful. And the people are great, and the beautiful Mississippi River. Oh, it's just go on and on and on. It's a gorgeous place to live.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And, it's a very complicated place, but one thing Mississippi can boast about is the literary heritage.
Yeah.
Going way back, we have the great classic authors like William Faulkner and Eudora Welty, but the generations of writers just keep coming. And that's something to really be proud of. And I'm so happy that I'm just a tiny part of that, maybe.
Nice. And you have a new book coming out, which is exciting. I'm excited to go down this path and talk about this. Can you tell us a little bit, Gerry, how did this all start for you as an author? When was that point in time where you went from not being an author to saying, yeah, this is my journey, this is where I'm heading?
Oh, my goodness. I'd say my journey began in earnest when I was teaching high school English. I was a high school English teacher for a long time. And I began to notice something in my students. I felt that they were being taught in a very rigid way to write essays, particularly. Like back then, the gold standard for teaching kids to write was the 3-paragraph or the 5-paragraph essay. And the format was very rigid. And I found it so limiting to what they were able to say. And they just had no voice of their own. They were just parroting information. And so I began to introduce a little bit of creative writing technique, the little bit that I knew about then, into my English classroom. And that grew into a request I went to the administration and asked if they would allow me to teach creative writing, which I didn't have a clue about. I really didn't. And when they said yes, then I sort of went, oh, wait, this means I have to learn something about how to try to teach young people to write.
Hmm.
And in the course of doing that, I started writing myself. One of the things I did early on was to go to a workshop for teachers that was considered a creative workshop, in that it was not just a how-to for us. We actually tried different writing methods, and we wrote fiction. And I wrote a story that week and read it at the last gathering on the last night. And it got good reviews. It was really funny. It was almost like, this was in New York, by the way, upstate New York. And it was almost like, well, here's this person from Mississippi, and she's writing this, does she wear shoes? Which I did. But that was sort of the seed for me. And I began to write along with my students, and I went to workshops and tried my own hand at some things, mostly short stories in the beginning that felt more manageable. And so I wrote short stories for a long while. Eventually reached the point where I thought, well, can I write a novel? And my first thought about that was, no, it's just too much. I like this form of the short story that's not confining, but has its limits, and it felt manageable. And then my husband, who's also a writer, said to me one day, he said, well, a novel is just a longer story. And it really gives you the opportunity to do a lot more with characters and setting and the storyline, the plot. And so I began to get into novel writing a little bit.
Amazing.
I actually have a couple of other novels in the drawer, as we like to say, besides this one. I had an agent at one point that turned out not to be a good experience. And so that was an incredibly disappointing season in my life. And I think when that opportunity went away, I didn't write for a couple of years. And then I gradually got back into it. This novel, That Pinson Girl, began probably, the idea surfaced in about 2010 or so. And I actually took the opening pages to a workshop and got really good feedback. And eventually I finished it, and then it just sat for a long time. I just didn't do anything with it. And then in the midst of COVID, this old story just kept nagging at me. I guess I never had really given up on it. And there was something there that was, it was nagging, it was calling me back. Maybe it was the challenge of trying to have another go at it and see if I could somehow make it better and help it fly. But the short version is that I did go back into it, and I just felt doors opening all over the place. It was really interesting that maybe that long time away from it was actually a good thing. Because 10 years later, I was a different writer. I was a more mature writer.
Yeah.
I maybe had a more mature sense of what I wanted to do with this book. And so aside from my decision to try to find a really good independent press, small press to publish it, and that was the other major component, the major thing that happened at that point in my writing line, which turned out to be a really good thing. And the rest is history. It's right here in my hands. And I'm really, really, it's an understatement to say that I'm happy to see this book in print.
Amazing. Amazing. So you mentioned you're different as an author in the gap between when the book was originally written and then coming back to it. What were some of the new insights you had around what you had written in the past when you looked at it and you're like, I'm a new person. I'm a different person than I was then. Take us kind of through that. What did you see in your own writings then?
I think I had a greater awareness to the issues that I wanted to present in the novel. And, you don't want a work of fiction to say, well, here's this issue for you, and here's this issue for you to think about, readers. You want somehow the themes of the book and the issues that the characters experience in the book to be more organic than that. But ideally, you want the connection to happen with readers. And I think mainly that happened for me in fleshing out the characters more, making them more complex, less stereotyped. Mm-hmm. I'll talk about one character in particular. One of the characters in the book is a biracial man named Luther Biggs. He is the son of the main character, Leona Pinson's grandfather and one of the grandfather's slaves. And Luther had first come to me as a character, as an elderly Black man, very much a stereotype, I think.
Yeah.
And I became more aware of that. I didn't want Luther to be an Uncle Tom figure. And so I worked really hard on the character of Luther to make him not just biracial, but more complex, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, and that needed to happen with all the characters, really. They needed to evolve.
Nice. Do you have, as an author, I'm really curious about this, do you ever have conversations with your characters where they kind of give you some direction and you kind of go back and forth with them and basically, in essence, talk to your characters? Does that ever happen?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mentioned Luther. Luther, I don't want to go all mystical or anything.
Yeah.
Luther appeared to me, it was almost a dream-like situation where this elderly Black man, as I pictured him then, was walking along an icy road, trying to get to the young woman who's giving birth in the novel. Leona is a white girl, and Luther is her protector. And so there was that. And I had a really fun experience recently when I wrote letters to certain characters and submitted them for an anthology. And even after the fact, after having written the book, I found that really interesting to think about. Now, I have a relationship with my characters.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And I'm finding that I still write short fiction. I find still that if I don't have a relationship with a character, that character is going to fall flat on the page.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Take us to the classroom for a moment, Gerry. I would love to have you up at the front of the room, and all of us here gathered are listening to you, and we're all in your classroom today, and we're all here to learn creative writing. We're here to learn how to connect with a character. If you were to step up in front of the classroom and give us a short lesson today on writing from your perspective now, compared to when you were teaching, what kind of things would you like to talk about in this classroom setting that we could all hear, take notes, and walk away with a little tidbit that we can apply to our writing? Any little lesson that you could share with us from your teacher's heart today?
Yeah. Um, I think so. I think the first thing that comes to mind is um, the relevance of our own life experiences, whether you're 15 or 55 or 80 plus like me.
Hmm.
That's that. Um, but we all have life experiences that we can draw on and that are universal in some sense. There's something about an experience I had maybe as a young mother that will resonate with another young mother a long time after that experience has passed for me. Um, so often students would come to me and they would whine. They would say, "Oh, I just don't have anything to write about," and it's just not true. And so, in the classroom, if I could do it over, I think I would spend more time exploring those pathways of individual experience. Um, and a piece might begin as a nonfiction piece, an essay, a personal essay, say. But then, if you want to write fiction, you start to think about it in different ways. You think about it. Um, there are certain ways to write that serve the story, that make for a good story, so that it becomes, well, this is maybe exactly what happened, but it'll be more interesting for the reader if this happens instead.
Mm-hmm.
And so you begin to build in that idea of tension and story development and arc and all those good things.
I like that. The one thing I know from my world in podcasting, for example, is I talk to other people who are thinking about starting a podcast and creating content, and they feel like the world is crowded and they don't have a spot because a lot of other people are doing something that they're interested in talking about. But because there's so many people out there talking about it, they feel like they don't have a spot. They don't have a place or a platform, so they don't do it. And one thing I say to them is the one thing that's unique about what you want to talk about is you. You're the unique part of your content, of your book, of your podcast, of your story. No one has walked these paths in life, spoken to the people they've spoken to, lived what you've lived, read the books, met those people. No one has ever walked your path, Gerry, except for you. You're the only one who's done that. Mm-hmm. So that's your creative edge, is you see the world the way you see the world. And I can't write your book, Gerry. There's no way I could write your book. It's impossible. So to be creative is just to realize the uniqueness of who you are and use that as your leverage point to create the content you want to do. We talk about creative writing, and that's a skill and that's a muscle you need to learn how to exercise and grow. But talk a little bit about just the fact that we as authors are creative just because we have our own story. How important is it for you as a teacher and as an author to help people understand their creative edge, being that their story is unique? How do we pull that out of an author and encourage them today to be more creative?
I think one way to do that is by example, is by encouraging reading. I never taught a class that I didn't include samples of writing that I felt were sound and pertinent to. Let's say we're working on character creation. So I might assign a story that is particularly interesting in terms of character development. Place is very important to me, and it's that can be an interesting starting point to tease out story, is starting with place. Draw a diagram of the first house you remember living in. Draw a floor plan.
Yeah.
And place certain people in your family in certain rooms. and then go from there to writing about what were the interactions, create a conversation between two characters in that house. There are lots of interesting creative ways to, I mentioned opening doors earlier, to open those doors. I want to say one thing too about this whole idea of teaching. Can you really teach creativity? And it becomes obvious quickly in any room of writers or writing students that there's talent, and then there is just an earnest desire to learn to write and to express yourself better. And that's a very worthy goal. And words don't generally come particularly easy to me. It's something I have to work at. And I think that's probably the case for more writers than not. It's something that requires, you sit yourself in the chair and you do it. And the words that you crank out on a given day may not be the words you want, but you keep at it until they are.
I love it. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the book as well. For that Pinson Girl, tell us a little bit more about the story that we're going to uncover as we open this book for the first time. And do you have a specific message to a reader as they start reading this book? What are your hopes? Can you tell us a little bit more about the book?
Sure. The novel, I still think of it as Spirit Lamp because that was or Spirit Light, one or the other, because that was the working title for those 10 years or so.
Okay.
And then the publisher encouraged me to change that. And I love the new title because it has an edge. It's That Pinson Girl, the one you've heard about.
Yeah.
It's historical fiction, which is something I never thought that this would be the book that would fly, honestly. It's set in the hills of North Mississippi, very rugged, harsh, poor countryside during the World War I years. And of course, there's the influenza epidemic about that same time. What I want to say to readers is that I hope you find the connection between the historical story and some of the same issues that we face now, particularly issues of racism and poverty and issues related to women and motherhood. I truly believe that a historical story can speak to us now, maybe just as well as a contemporary story can. As far as the book, the story itself, Leona Pinson is a 17-year-old white girl, daughter of poor farmers in those hills, who becomes involved with a young man who then goes off to war before she finds out she's pregnant. And having a child out of wedlock in that time period was just, it isolated her totally. It separated her in many ways from her family. But Leona is a tough cookie, and she has that child and raises it. The dynamic of the household at that point is that her father has been killed a couple of years before in a hunting accident or so-called accident. Her mother is a very troubled person. Her brother is very cruel and threatening to Leona. He has a lot of issues himself. he takes up with a gang of other young men who are trying to reincarnate the Klan, and they roam the countryside, terrorizing African American folks. And then there's Luther, who has loved her since Leona was a little bitty girl, and he is there as a father figure. But I don't want to make it seem too clear and too rosy, because every character carries the burden of a secret. And the secrets are very much interrelated. And I don't want to say too much about that, because it's at the heart of the book. But the book is about prejudice and hardship and courage, determination, all those things. I like to think that that's at the heart of the book.
Are there elements of you, Gerry, in some of the characters? Do you write yourself into the story at all, or do you keep yourself separate?
Not intentionally.
Okay.
I think there must be something about Leona that's like me.
Okay.
I've had some things in my life. I did not have a child in that way.
Yeah.
Plenty of other things in my life that I've had to persevere. We all do. We all have moments in our lives when we wonder where the next step is going to come from.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I was a spoiled only child. I mean, my parents let me, and I think this is important, harking back to my writing journey. It's really important to me now that I have my first little Winnie the Pooh books that they let me draw in with crayons. And it was my way of, before I could write words, it was my way of responding to story. And I just think it's the neatest thing that my otherwise old-fashioned parents let me do that. And some parents might say, oh, that's defacing the book. You can't do that. But that and the way they initiated me into reading, the story was that by the time I was 2, I had completely memorized Dr. Seuss's Horton Hatches the Egg, and I could say it completely. And so there was that reading journey too that was encouraged.
Yeah.
Even though both my parents were high school graduates, they were not college graduates. But they instilled a love of words in me. The little local library, especially in the summer, was my friend. I can just picture that little dark room that was the library, and being allowed to roam and pull books and read whatever I wanted to read. It's great.
It's amazing. As I talk to more and more authors, Gerry, I get the sense that to some degree and in some way, we're born with a story already in us. And then we kind of develop that story as we live it out. It's like we have something to say, we have something to share with the world. And even if we feel like it's just small and our message won't change the world or anything, I think every one of us has a story inside of us that we just need to uncover. And then by sharing our story, we may help somebody in the process to identify their story and maybe help them share their message with the world as well. Do you have any thoughts around our own story and how we can develop that?
Not so much about development, but the thought that comes to mind when you talk about that is, for writers out there who might be listening who maybe have not achieved what they feel is any degree of success, it's so important to think about what you have to say. And whether you say it for a small audience or even for no audience for the time being, it's still important that you say it, that you get the words down. hopefully you'll make that connection with an audience. It took me a long, long, long time to do that. I published my first book, it was a collection of short stories, in 2015. That was 8 years ago. It was with a very small but very good press, but a limited reach, a limited audience. But somehow, if the urge is there to write, and I think it is an urge, I think it's almost like an itch we have to scratch.
Yeah.
Then I would encourage you to keep at it. Rejection is so hard. Rejection still stings me, and I get them, almost weekly. But the truth of that is, I'll never publish anything unless I put it out there, and I take that risk.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage writers who are maybe new on the journey, or maybe writers who've been at it for some while, to just keep doing it. If you can, swap work with somebody. Do a workshop here and there. There are workshops available that don't cost a fortune. It's really important to keep developing the craft. When you get a rejection, take that piece apart a little bit and think about why.
Yeah.
See what can be learned from that. I'm rambling, Dave.
No, I know you're not. You're teaching, and I'm a student, and I'm enjoying this 100%. Gerry, as far as where the book is available and kind of where we can purchase and share a copy with our friends and family, and then as well how we would connect with you after this is done today. There's people I would know that would love to have you as a guest, maybe talking to a group of authors like this virtually and kind of sharing your insight with a group of authors. They would love to connect with you and invite you to be a guest for that. You're great at how you present and how you share your wisdom, even just here on the podcast. I can anticipate there's going to be people who want to reach out to you. So again, where the book is available, timing around that as well, and then how to reach out to you and where we can do that. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. The book is still in pre-order.
Okay.
It releases February the 6th, 2024.
Excellent.
And for those who are impatient in our audience about work coming out, this has been 2 years in the works.
Wow.
Yeah. But well worth it. It's being published by Regal House Publishing. Okay. And that's been just a very positive, good experience for me. They're terrific.
Nice.
So it's only available in pre-order now. It can be, I hear that pre-orders are important. So if anybody is inclined to pre-order, that would be great. Order from Regal House Publishing, and you'll include these links.
Yep, I will. Yep.
And also, your usual suspects like Amazon.
Yeah.
Bookshop.org is a great outlet for book sales because they connect with local bookstores.
That's important.
Yeah. So if you have a favorite indie, maybe not in your own hometown that you'd like to buy from, you can do that through Bookshop. And Barnes & Noble will have it. So those are the, sort of the usual outlets. I'm no social media queen, but I'm working on it.
Good.
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I'll send you those after we send you those links.
Excellent. Yeah.
On Facebook, I've sort of become enamored of Instagram because I love the sort of artistic component of Instagram. I love good photography.
Nice.
And I like coming up with posts on Instagram that combine sort of an aesthetic with whatever I'm trying to get across, which is, of course, buy my book.
Yeah.
But that's been fun. I am on Twitter, now called X, however long that lasts. And I do have a website. I've segued away from keeping my blog on the website to, I have a Substack column. Okay. And if anybody is interested and would like to find a place to follow me, and that's is mostly personal essays. And at the moment, I'm writing about the book a good bit, and the process and the journey and the characters. Substack is probably where you'll find my sort of companion writing. I heard that phrase the other day because I'm in the throes of trying to write some personal essays, some pieces that will go along with the publication of the book. And I love that someone called those companion pieces, that you're not writing to sell the book, to pitch the book, you're writing to deliver insights about, or I am, about my life, my journey with the writing, the things that inform the book out of my own memory and experience, that kind of thing. So that's proven to be more fun than I thought it would be.
Excellent. We're going to have links to everything in the show notes so that people listening on their device or their computer, they can click one button and go straight to you and all those great resources. For someone who says they're not super active on social media, you're on things that I've never been on. So I'm just telling you, you're doing quite well. Don't think you're not. You're doing excellent as far as connecting with community. So well done. Well done.
Thank you. But, it becomes a matter of the time you spend.
Right.
And I'm not doing much writing right now, and that hurts.
Yeah.
And I need to find a better balance with all that. And I'm primarily, I do Facebook and Instagram. There are things that I don't. There are other opportunities out there that I'm not. I just feel like I have enough.
Excellent.
I'd rather do a better job in a couple of places than try to spread things too thinly.
Well, Gerry, you are completing your first ever podcast guesting interview, and you've done outstanding. I want to let you know, I hope you do many more of these, because hearing your voice and the passion behind the words that you write, it's beautiful for the audience to connect with you in this way. And I know there's people from your community that love and support you. They care deeply for you as an author and as a person. They're going to hear your voice and be thrilled to hear you in this way. And then new people who have not yet been introduced to your world that now know about you and are looking for their next great novel to fall in love with. I'm so proud to have you on the show and would love to continue following your journey. So thank you so much for making time to do this. And maybe it's a little stretching for you to do this. And I really do appreciate and honor the fact that you've done this today with us. So thank you.
Stretching is what it's all about.
Yeah.
As writers and readers, that's what we do.
Yeah. And you've done it well. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Excellent. Everyone, all the information's in the show notes. And again, to Hannah, thank you for making this connection happen so I could have Gerry in my life. I've learned so much from a great teacher and a great author. I feel blessed to have Gerry here with me today. So everyone, please go check out the show notes and everything and reach out to Gerry. If you're looking for an amazing, inspiring person to come talk to your group, maybe you're a lead an author group and you're looking for a great voice to come and share, Gerry's here. She's going to bring so much wisdom and knowledge and love to your group. So reach out to Gerry and invite her to be a part of your next meeting. Gerry, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Dave.
Awesome.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for checking out the latest episode of Living the Next Chapter. I'm so happy to bring on these amazing authors and to share their stories, but I do have to confess I have a problem. And people who know me best would say, Dave, you have more than one problem. My problem is I have more episodes than I can release to you through my audio host, but I have a solution for you. Oh, yes. Head over to our YouTube channel. Subscribe today to our YouTube channel, and you can get the most recent episode. I'm posting this episode today that I recorded today, and you can get it now on YouTube. Jump the line, move right past that big burly guy at the door. You can get right in and get the most recent episode of Living the Next Chapter on our YouTube channel. Make sure you go there. livingthenextchapter.com has all the information. And again, I want to thank you for making this podcast such a great joy to create. Catch you on the next one.
Are you searching for your next favorite author? Then Book Banter with Diane Burkhart is the podcast for you. We have amazing guests from indie authors to traditionally published authors and every hybrid in between. If you're an author, we have something for you too. Besides being able to be a guest on our show, we also pepper our lineup occasionally with publishing industry professionals like editors, publicists, marketing coaches, and so many more are coming. So be sure to check out Book Banter with Diane Burkhart, Book Talk Podcast, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday. You can find us on the major streaming services or on our own website, burkhartbooks.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe today so you never miss an episode, because if you love books like we do, you do not want to miss this podcast.